desert wind didn't howl. It screamed. It tore across the salt-cracked earth of the Tier 1 range like a vengeful god, whipping sand into stinging veils, bending the heat haze into drunken spirals, and turning the 1-800-meter target into a dancing ghost. At 1-800 meters, even the best snipers in the world needed perfect conditions. But this was chaos. A tempest of invisible currents, a symphony of turbulence no calculator could fully predict. And yet, for 3 hours, 10 of the most elite operators on Earth, Navy SEALs hardened by fire, forged in the crucible of global conflict, had failed to hit it. Once, twice, 10 times. Each miss echoed louder than the last. They blamed the rifle. They blamed the ammo. They blamed the wind, the altitude, the calibration, the damn sun, but they never once blamed themselves. Until she stood up. No fanfare. No announcement. No swagger. Just silence. A woman in khaki coveralls, gray threading through her dark hair, crow's feet etched deep around eyes that held the calm of a midnight ocean. She hadn't spoken since arriving. Didn't need to. Her hands, steady as tectonic plates, had been cleaning a rifle like it was sacred scripture. Now she rose, not with haste but with the quiet inevitability of dawn breaking over a mountain ridge. And when she fired, 10 rounds, 10 dead center impacts, 1 ragged hole, and the entire room, 10 men who'd spent their lives believing they were the apex predators of warfare, went utterly, devastatingly silent. Because in that moment, the truth slammed into them like a bullet to the chest. You don't earn respect by shouting. You earn it by being so good, the world forgets to speak. This is not just a story about a sniper. This is the story of gunnery. Sergeant Evelyn Reed, the woman who didn't break records. She rewrote them. The woman who didn't demand admiration. She earned it with silence. And the man who mocked her? He spent the rest of his life trying to become worthy of her shadow. The Tier 1 range wasn't a place. It was a temple, built into the arid belly of Nevada's Black Rock Desert. Its concrete firing lines stretched for half a mile, flanked by steel targets that bore the scars of thousands, of rounds fired by men whose names would never be printed in newspapers, but whose reputations lived in classified, after-action reports and whispered legends in the back rooms of Quantico and Coronado. It was here, under a sky bleached white by noon sun, that Petty Officer First Class Hotshot Miller stood at the head of his team, surrounded by the kind of men who made others nervous just by walking into a room. Tattoos curled up forearms like serpents, anchors, skulls, Latin mottos. Muscles strained against the fabric of their tactical gear. Every movement was deliberate, every glance a challenge. These weren't just operators. They were icons, men who had extracted hostages from burning buildings, eliminated high-value targets in the mountains of Afghanistan, and survived ambushes where survival was statistically impossible. Miller was their golden boy. 28 years old, 3 combat deployments, 2 Bronze Stars, and, more importantly, the unshakable belief that he was the best shot on the planet. He'd won the Marine Corps' long-range precision shoot-off twice. He'd hit a moving vehicle at 2,600 meters in a dust storm. He'd calibrated a rifle using only instinct and a pocket watch during a blackout in Syria. To him, skill wasn't earned, it was inherited. And arrogance? Arrogance was just confidence with a military haircut. That morning, the team had been summoned for a validation test. Not a training exercise. Not a drill. A demonstration. The new M210 enhanced sniper rifle system, a next-generation platform developed by a secretive contractor, was being field-tested. Its optics promised sub-MOA accuracy at extreme range. Its barrel was cryogenically treated. Its bipod was titanium-laced. Its software could compensate for Coriolis effect, humidity, temperature gradients, even the gravitational pull of the moon. It was, in theory, the perfect weapon. The problem? It wouldn't work. Not today. Not with this wind. Miller had spent the last hour ranting to anyone who would listen, mostly himself. This piece of junk can't hold zero in a hurricane. He bellowed, slapping the rifle's receiver with the flat of his palm. I've shot in worse conditions in Helmand Province and nailed targets smaller than a coffee cup. What the hell are these engineers thinking? Did they design this thing in a lab with air conditioning and espresso machines? His team chuckled. Nods. Murmurs of agreement. Yeah, man, said one, wiping sweat from his brow. I swear, if I shoot this thing again, I'm gonna start praying to the wind gods. Another added, maybe we should have brought a priest instead of a civilian tech. And then she walked in. No escort. No badge, no uniform, no rank insignia. Just a woman in faded khaki coveralls, carrying a leather-bound notebook and a soft canvas case. Her boots were scuffed, her gloves worn thin. She moved like someone who'd spent decades walking quietly through the world, unnoticed. Her presence alone disrupted the rhythm of the room. It was like a monk entering a bar brawl. Miller's grin widened. He saw an easy target, a civilian, a woman, probably some engineer from some Silicon Valley startup hired to babysit the prototype, someone whose job ended when the demo was over. He sauntered over, arms crossed, voice dripping with faux politeness. Ma'am, with all due respect, this isn't the ladies' auxiliary ski shoot. This is a Tier 1 range. Maybe you can go get us some coffee. The words hung in the air like smoke. A collective snicker rippled through the team. Some stifled laughter behind gloved hands. Others leaned in, waiting for the reaction. The woman didn't blink, didn't look at him, didn't flinch. Her gaze remained locked on the rifle laid out on the bench before her. Slowly, deliberately, she reached out, her fingers calloused, strong, elegant, brushed the bolt carrier group, not to inspect, not to adjust, to clean, as if a phantom speck of dust threatened the sanctity of the weapon. And then, nothing, no retort, no glare, no apology, just silence. A silence so thick, so profound, it swallowed Miller's mockery whole. For a heartbeat, he thought he'd won. Then he realized she hadn't acknowledged him, not because she was afraid, but because she didn't think he mattered. High above the range, perched in the reinforced observation tower, Master Chief Franklin Thorne watched through his Leica binoculars. His weathered face creased in deepening lines. Thorne wasn't just a Master Chief, he was a legend. 32 years in the Marine Corps, 2 tours in Vietnam. Commanding officer of the legendary Scout Sniper Platoon during Operation Iraqi Freedom, mentor to hundreds of snipers who now led units across the globe. He'd seen everything. Cowardice, bravery, arrogance, humility, and he recognized the difference between a warrior and a showman. He watched Miller's smug grin, he watched the team's cruel laughter, and then he focused on her. He saw the eye, way her left elbow pressed into the shooting mat, not resting but fused, as if her bone had grown into the foam. He saw the subtle alignment of her hips, shoulders, spine all converging into a single axis, perfectly parallel to the rifle's bore. It wasn't stance, it was union. He'd seen that posture once, before 20 years ago at Quantico, during the high-angle extreme range challenge. A woman, same. Gray streaks at the temples, same quiet. Intensity, same terrifying stillness. Her name had been Evelyn Reed, a gunnery sergeant, the only woman ever to win the Marine Corps long-range precision championship outright, the woman who set the record for longest. Confirmed kill in mountainous terrain, 2,475 meters in 2008. The woman who wrote the doctrine on reading wind patterns in alpine environments, the same doctrine every sniper trainee studied. The woman who vanished from active duty 2 years later, officially retired due to medical reasons. Unofficially, no one knew. Some said she'd gone rogue, others claimed she'd been reassigned to Black Ops. A few whispered she'd been killed in a covert mission, and the Corps buried the truth to protect national security. Thorne had searched for her for years, never found her until now, and there she was, in coveralls, on his range watching his boys fail and doing nothing. He lowered his binoculars slowly, his knuckles whitened around the casing. He didn't yell, didn't reprimand, didn't intervene, because he knew if she wanted to be seen, she'd make sure they saw her, and if she didn't, then they didn't deserve to. By 11:47 a.m., the team had fired 47 rounds, 0 hits, not one, not even close. The spotter, a young SEAL named Jenkins, had begun muttering under his breath. Wind shear, microturbulence, thermal inversion. He adjusted the ballistic computer again, recalibrated the laser rangefinder, checked the environmental sensors. All green, all correct. Yet the rounds kept falling wide, left, right, low, high. Each miss felt personal, like the rifle was mocking them. Miller's voice grew louder. See? This isn't operator error. This is defective engineering. Who approved this system? Who signed off on this garbage? He turned to the woman. Ms. Reed, he spat, forcing the title like poison. You're from the manufacturer, right? You tell me, is this rifle broken? Still, she didn't answer. She simply opened her notebook, wrote a single line. Wind velocity gradient, 8.3 knots at 50 meters, 12.1 knots at 150 meter. Directional shift, 14 degree clockwise over 90 seconds. Thermal layering, inverted. Optics stable, 0 holds. Operator error, 100%. She closed the book, looked up, met Miller's gaze for the first time, and smiled. Not a smirk, not a sneer, a small, quiet curve of the lips, like a teacher watching a child insist the moon is made of cheese. Miller flushed. You think this is funny? He growled. She didn't respond, turned away, and went back to cleaning the rifle. The team fell into a sullen silence. Frustration curdled into something darker. Shame. They'd come to prove the rifle was flawed. Instead, they'd proven themselves inadequate. And the worst part? There was no one to blame. Except each other, and the quiet woman who refused to play their game. It was 12:14 p.m. The final shooter fired. The round missed by nearly 3 feet. Jenkins sighed. No impact. Miller threw his hands up. It can't be done. He stomped his boot on the concrete. Not today. Not with this wind. This rifle is trash. We're wasting our time. He turned to the team. We're done. Pack it up. Then, a voice crackled over the range speaker. Low, deep, unshakable. Ms. Reed. Everyone froze. Master Chief Thorne's voice carried the weight of command, the gravity of decades. The petty officer seems to believe the rifle is at fault. A pause. The wind howled. The team held their breath. Would you be willing to demonstrate its proper function? Silence. Then, a single nod, from the woman, from Evelyn Reed. She rose. Slowly, without ceremony. Her movements were economical, precise, like a dancer who'd rehearsed 1,000 times in empty rooms. She didn't hurry. She didn't strut. She didn't look at Miller. She didn't look at anyone. She walked to the firing line, lay down, pressed her cheek to the stock, closed her eyes, breathe in, out, in, out. The rhythmic rise and fall of her chest became the only sound in the world. The wind screamed, the sun burned, the desert shimmered, and she listened, not with ears, with soul. Miller smirked. Oh, this is going to be good. He turned to his team. Watch this. Civilian tech tries to impress us. Next thing you know, she'll be asking for our autographs. The team chuckled, but their laughter was hollow, because somewhere deep inside, they knew something was coming, and it wasn't going to be pretty. Evelyn Reed did not fire immediately. She waited. For 61 seconds, the spotter shifted. Miller tapped his foot. A fly buzzed past. The wind shifted again. A gust surged over the ridge. She didn't flinch. Her eye remained fixed in the scope. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger. Not tensed, not ready, waiting. The world narrowed, to the reticle, to the target, to the dance of heat distortion, to the whisper of air molecules brushing against the bullet's path. She didn't see a target. She saw a story. The wind was speaking. It told her of pressure differentials created by distant mesas, of thermal layers rising like invisible staircases, of micro-vortices born from cracks in the rock below. It told her where the bullet would drift, where it would catch, where it would die. She didn't fight the wind. She listened. And then she exhaled, fully, completely. The last breath, the pause, the stillness, and crack. The report shattered the air, clean, sharp, final. The spotter didn't react. He stared. 5 seconds passed. 10. Then, impact. His voice cracked. Dead center. A gasp, then another, then 100. Miller staggered backward. What? No, that's impossible. Evelyn didn't move. Her hand cycled the bolt. Smooth. Silent. Surgical. Crack, second shot. Impact, same hole. Third, same. Fourth, same. Fifth, same. Sixth, same. Seventh, same. Eighth, same. Ninth, same. 10th, same. 10 shots, 10 impacts, 1 hole, The target, a quarter-sized steel plate at 1/800 meters, was now a single, ragged, perfectly centered puncture. Not 10 holes. 1. 10 bullets had passed through the exact same point. The wind hadn't changed. The rifle hadn't changed. The conditions hadn't changed. She had. She sat up, cycled the bolt one final time, made the rifle safe, laid her head gently on the stock. Rested, as if she'd just finished drinking tea. The range was dead. No one moved. No one spoke. Miller stood frozen, mouth open, eyes wide. The word died on his tongue. That's not possible. It wasn't disbelief. It was existential collapse. Because what she'd just done defied physics, defied probability, defied everything they'd been taught. They'd been told, wind is your enemy. Fight it. Compensate. Calculate. She'd shown them, wind is your teacher. Listen to it, and they'd been too loud to hear. Master Chief Thorne descended the tower. His boots crunched on gravel with deliberate, heavy steps. He didn't look at the team, didn't acknowledge their shock, didn't offer praise. He walked straight to Evelyn Reed, stopped behind her, let the silence stretch, let the weight settle. Then he spoke, not loudly, but clearly, enough for every man on the range to hear. Gunnery Sergeant Evelyn Reed. The words landed like a physical blow. Every seal stiffened. Miller's knees buckled slightly. Gunnery Sergeant, that. Gunnery Sergeant? The one from Quantico? The one who'd set the record in '08? The one rumored to have trained the first female scout snipers in the Corps? The one who'd disappeared? She was here? Thorne didn't stop. I haven't seen shooting like that since you set the high-angle record at Quantico back in '08. He paused. Let the revelation sink in. Then, you men stand there wearing the trident, thinking it makes you the last word on everything. You think you know what a warrior looks like? He gestured toward Evelyn. You don't know a thing. His voice dropped, cold as a winter night. This is Gunnery Sergeant Evelyn Reed of the United States Marine Corps. She didn't just test this rifle system. Her team designed the optics. She wrote the doctrine on extreme long-range engagement in mountainous terrain. The drill you all just failed, that's her warm-up exercise. Silence. Deeper than before. Thorne drew himself up, back straight, feet together, right hand raised, and rendered a slow, perfect, formal salute to a woman in khaki coveralls. No one had ever seen Thorne salute anyone below admiral rank, not even Medal of Honor recipients. He'd reserved it for fallen heroes. Now he saluted a living legend, and Evelyn Reed returned it, crisp, precise. No flourish, no drama, just honor. Thorne lowered his hand, looked directly at Miller. His eyes were glaciers. Petty Officer Miller, you made an assumption. You judged a master by the cover of the book. In our line of work, assumptions get people killed. You disrespected a guest on my range, and more than that, you disrespected a legend in our community. He stepped forward, voice low. Dangerous. You owe the gunnery sergeant an apology. Now. Miller's face went pale. His throat worked. He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. He took one step forward, then another, kneeled. Not because he was ordered, because he had no choice. He looked up at Evelyn Reed, tears welled in his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. I was arrogant. I was wrong. I am truly, deeply sorry. Evelyn nodded, once. Short. Decisive. Apology accepted. No forgiveness offered. No anger shown. Just acceptance. And then, she turned, walked away, left Miller kneeling on the concrete, left the team shattered, left the legend standing alone, and the world changed. The next day, the target was taken down. The steel plate, now riddled with 10 perfect holes fused into one, was mounted on a polished walnut plaque. Master Chief Thorne commissioned a brass plate to be engraved beneath it. It read, Competence is the only currency. Evelyn Reed, 1/800 meter, 10 rounds, 1 hole, wind, 12 knots, 14-degree shift, 11:52 a.m., June 17th, 2023. It was hung in the main briefing room, next to the photos of fallen heroes, not beside them, next to them. Equal respect. That plaque became sacred. Every new sniper trainee was forced to stand before it for 15 minutes. Silent. No talking, no phones, just staring at the hole, at the date, at the inscription, and at the lesson. Thorne didn't lecture. He didn't preach. He simply said, "This isn't about marksmanship. It's about humility. It's about listening. It's about knowing that the person you dismiss might be the one who defines your standard." Within weeks, the phrase "read point" entered the lexicon. Not as a location, as a state of mind. Before any major drill, snipers would touch the plaque. A silent gesture, a prayer, a promise. "I will not be blind." Miller didn't leave. He stayed. He came to the armory every evening, sat in the corner, watched, listened, waited. 1 week later, he finally spoke. "Gunny, I've never seen anyone read wind like that. I've never seen anyone make that shot, let alone 10 times. Would you be willing to show me what I was missing?" Evelyn looked up. From her scope mount, from her screwdriver. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. Just slightly. "The wind isn't your enemy, Miller." She set down the tool, stood. "It's just information." She walked to the firing line, motioned for him to follow. "You were trying to fight it. You have to learn to listen to it." For the next 2 hours, she taught him, not as a superior, not as a teacher, but as a peer. She showed him how to feel the wind on his skin, how to watch the dust devils dance, how to use the mirage above the ground as a map, how to time his shot not by the clock, but by the pulse of the atmosphere. She taught him to trust his instincts over his calculator, to feel the bullet's flight before it left the barrel, to become the rifle, to become the wind, to become the silence. When he finally fired his first clean shot on the 47th attempt, he cried, not from pride, from awe, from humility. He had spent his life believing he was the best. Now he understood he was just beginning. Months passed, years. Miller didn't become hot shot again. He became Miller, senior instructor, trainer, mentor, and the most feared man in the sniper corps. Not because he shot well, but because he taught better. He began every new class in the briefing room, standing before the plaque. Always, he told the story. Every detail. His arrogance, his humiliation, his failure, his redemption. He didn't spare himself. He used his shame as his greatest teaching tool. "Look at this," he'd say, voice thick with reverence. "This isn't just a great group. This is a lesson. It's a lesson that your assumptions can be your undoing. It's a lesson that ego is a liability you cannot afford. The person you underestimate, the one you dismiss, might just be the one who sets the standard you'll spend the rest of your career trying to meet." Trainees began calling him the quiet man, because he never shouted, never bragged, never demanded respect. He earned it, and by doing so, he gave it back to everyone else. He started a tradition. Before every live fire exercise, every trainee would kneel before the plaque. Touch it. Say one word. Listen. And then they'd go out and shoot. Better, quieter, smarter, more human. Evelyn Reed never returned to the range. No one knew where she went. Some said she retired to Alaska. Others swore she was teaching indigenous trackers in the Amazon how to hunt with rifles. A few believed she'd joined a clandestine unit protecting global peacekeepers. But none of that mattered, because her legacy wasn't in the records. It wasn't in the doctrine. It wasn't even in the hole in the steel. It was in the culture. It was in the silence. It was in the fact that no one on that range ever called a woman ma'am again, without thinking twice. It was in the fact that a SEAL who once mocked competence now bowed before it. It was in the fact that a generation of warriors learned true strength doesn't roar. It whispers. True mastery doesn't demand attention. It commands silence. True respect isn't given. It's earned by showing up, staying quiet, and doing the impossible without asking for applause. The brass disc embedded in the concrete at the original firing position became known as Reed Point. Trainees touched it before every match. Veterans visited it on anniversaries. New recruits kissed it. And on the anniversary of the day, every operator on base, SEAL, Marine, Army Ranger, Air Force JTAC, would gather silently at 11:52 a.m. No speeches. No banners, no cameras, just silence. And then One shot, one rifle, one bullet fired into the wind in honor of the woman who taught them how to listen. Years later, a young female recruit, just 21, fresh out of Marine Corps Scout Sniper School, stood before the plaque. Her name was Private First Class Lena Torres. She'd heard the stories, seen the video, read the files, but she didn't believe them. Not really, until she fired her first 1-800-meter shot, missed by 6 inches. She cursed, cried, thought about quitting. Then she remembered. She walked to Reed Point, touched the disc, whispered, "I'm listening." She came back the next day, and the next, and the next. For 3 months. She studied wind patterns. She recorded atmospheric data. She slept on the range. She learned to feel the air, and on the 3rd anniversary of Evelyn Reed's feat, she fired one shot, one hole, center. The spotter screamed, "Impact! Dead center! Same hole!" The entire range erupted, not in cheers, in awe, because they'd witnessed something rare. Not perfection, transcendence. Later, they found a note tucked into the base of the plaque, written in elegant, precise script. You don't need to be loud to be lethal. You just need to be quiet enough to hear the wind. ER, no signature. No title. Just those words. And the echo. The story of Evelyn Reed spread beyond the Tier 1 range. It traveled through encrypted channels, through special operations forums, through the halls of Fort Bragg, Camp Pendleton, and the Pentagon. It was shared in PDFs titled The Reed Protocol, Silence as Strategy. It was referenced in leadership seminars, in corporate boardrooms, in police SWAT academies, in elite athletic training programs. Why? Because it wasn't about guns. It was about humanity. It was about the CEO who dismissed a junior analyst's idea until it saved the company $200 million. The surgeon who let a resident present the diagnosis, even though she'd already diagnosed it herself. The athlete who trained in silence while the world cheered the loudest star. The artist who painted for years in obscurity, only to redefine modern art in a single gallery opening. The most dangerous person in any room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who listens, the one who prepares, the one who shows up, quietly, and does what no one else believes is possible. Evelyn Reed never asked for respect, she commanded it. With a whisper of squeezed steel, with the deafening silence of a perfect impact, she proved that true legacy isn't measured in medals or headlines. It's measured in the standards you set, in the silence you create, in the humility you model, in the generations you inspire. You are not defined by your title. You are not defined by your rank. You are not defined by how loud you are. You are defined by what you do when no one is watching, by how you treat the quiet ones, by whether you listen or just wait to speak. If you've ever underestimated someone because they didn't shout, if you've ever dismissed someone because they didn't wear a badge, if you've ever been the one who needed to be humbled, this story is for you. Subscribe now to Beyond True Tales, where the quietest voices change the world. We bring you real stories of unsung warriors, hidden geniuses, and silent legends who didn't ask for fame because they didn't need it. They just needed to be right. Click subscribe, turn on notifications. Because next time you walk into a room, don't look for the loudest voice. Look for the one who's already listening, and then listen too.